The Kiss. A goddamn cinematic masterpiece of betrayal. Starring my girlfriend and the school hunk, Chad Thundercock. Yes, that was his actual name, and yes, it was as ridiculous as it sounds. They were tangled together like a pair of headphones after a trip through the dryer, their lips locked in a passionate embrace that made my stomach churn with a nausea that was more potent than a cafeteria lunch. "What the?" I sputtered, my voice a strangled croak that would make a pubescent teenager sound like Barry White. I stumbled out of the car, my carefully rehearsed cool guy demeanor crumbling faster than a stale cookie in a hurricane. Sue, bless her oblivious heart and her questionable taste in men, finally noticed me, her eyes widening with a mix of guilt and annoyance that would make a nun swear. "Oh, hey, Kenji," she said, her voice dripping with a fake sweetness that could give you a cavity. "What's up?" "What's up?" I echoed, my voice cracking with a disbelief that was as potent as a double shot of espresso. "I just saw my girl sucking face with Captain Douchebag. That's what's up." Chad, bless his inflated ego and his pea-sized brain, stepped forward, his chest puffed out like a pigeon with a superiority complex. "Your girl?" he scoffed, his voice a testosterone-fueled baritone that would make a bullfrog sound like a soprano. "Dude, please. Hot girls like Sue belong with guys like me, not losers like you." Chad, bless his protein shake-fueled muscles and his pea-sized brain, was lounging against my car like he owned the damn thing, his smug grin wider than a football field. I marched over, my footsteps echoing in the silent parking lot, the anger a tightly coiled spring in my chest, ready to unleash a world of hurt on this arrogant prick. "Step away from the vehicle, Thundercock," I growled, my voice a low rumble that would make a Doberman sound like a choir boy. He raised an eyebrow, his perfectly sculpted features contorting into a sneer that would make a plastic surgeon weep. "Or what, loser?" he scoffed, his voice dripping with a condescension that could curdle milk. "Gonna cry to your mommy?" "Tempting," I retorted, my voice laced with a sarcasm that was sharper than the keys I was now brandishing. "But I have a better idea. How about I introduce your face to the business end of my fist?" His smirk faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his eyes as he took in my stance, the barely controlled fury radiating from me like a radioactive isotope. "Dude, chill," he said, his voice losing its bravado, his hand instinctively reaching for the hair gel that was probably the only thing holding his fragile ego together. "It's just a car." "Just a car," I echoed, my voice rising with the indignation that had been simmering for weeks. "This isn't just any car, Thundercock. This is my car, the one your daddy so graciously loaned you from his car wash." I whipped out the registration, the official document a slap in the face of his privileged ignorance. His eyes widened, the realization dawning on him with the speed of a snail in a marathon. He quickly pulled me aside, away from Sue. But, he stammered, his voice cracking like a pubescent teenager's. "My dad, he said—" "Your dad said you could borrow my six-figure sports car?" I interrupted, my voice dripping with a sarcasm that could melt asphalt. "Seriously? Is that the best you could come up with? Did you even rehearse your lines before you decided to play the role of the rich kid who can get away with anything?" He deflated then, his carefully constructed image of the untouchable jock crumbling faster than a stale cookie in a hurricane. And as the truth spilled out of him, a confession of borrowed cars, stolen moments, and a girlfriend who was more interested in social media likes than genuine affection, my anger mingled with a strange sense of pity. She told me you were a loser," he mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. "That you were, well, that you were a simp. That you'd do anything for her, buy her anything she wanted, even if it meant bankrupting myself?" I finished, the bitterness of her betrayal a sour taste in my mouth. "Yeah, I get it. I was the fool, the sucker, the guy who thought love could conquer all. Even a gold-digging girlfriend with a penchant for designer labels and a boyfriend who drives a stolen car." But the pity was quickly replaced by a renewed surge of anger, a determination to make them both pay for their deceit, their manipulation, their utter disregard for my feelings, my trust, my goddamn sanity. She even damaged the hood, Chad confessed, his voice cracking with a fear that was as pathetic as it was satisfying. Took some selfies, for Instagram, and she dropped her phone, and it dented the hood of my car. I finished, my voice dangerously low, the image of Sue, my now ex-girlfriend, posing for selfies on the hood of my car, a symbol of her vanity and my own stupidity, fueling the fire in my veins. Yeah, he mumbled, his eyes darting nervously towards the parking lot exit. I have the photos. She sent them to me. I snatched his phone, my fingers scrolling through the incriminating evidence, the photos a testament to her narcissism and his gullibility. And as I looked at the images, the damage to my car, the smug grin on Sue's face, the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just about a stolen kiss, a broken heart, a bruised ego. This was about property damage, about financial liability, about a goddamn court summons that was about to land on their doorstep like a meteor from hell. "You're both screwed," I said, my voice a chilling whisper that echoed through the empty parking lot. Screwed royally. And I, the loser, the simp, the guy you thought you could walk all over, am going to make sure you both pay for every dent, every scratch, every goddamn penny that this little escapade has cost me. The ping of the text message was the digital equivalent of a slap in the face, a virtual stiletto heel to the heart. I stared at the screen, the words glowing with a venomous green that matched the bile rising in my throat. Kenji, it began. The name I'd once whispered with affection, now a weaponized syllable in the arsenal of her cruelty. We're over. I'm sorry, but I've realized I deserve more. More excitement, more passion, more everything. More everything. Was that what Chad Thundercock offered? More hair gel? More inflated ego? More stolen sports cars that he couldn't even drive without crashing into a parked minivan? More? I typed back, my fingers trembling with a rage that was as potent as a triple-shot espresso. More than the love, the loyalty, the years of support I've given you? More than the friendship, the trust, the goddamn emotional stability I've provided? Oh, please, Kenji. Her reply was swift, a digital eye roll that would make a teenager cringe. Don't be so dramatic. You're a nice guy, I guess. But nice guys finish last, and I'm not interested in finishing anywhere but the top. Preferably in a Lamborghini with a champagne flute in one hand and a diamond necklace in the other. The Lamborghini, of course. Because nothing screamed shallow materialistic bitch louder than a sports car that cost more than her entire college fund. The car that she ironically still hasn't figured out was mine, taking the whole dumb blonde to another level. And Chad, with his daddy's car wash alleged fortune and his inflated sense of entitlement, was probably the perfect chauffeur for her materialistic joyride. The poor bastard probably couldn't afford the damages to my car. Car washes don't make that kind of money. So that's it then. I typed, the words a bitter taste in my mouth, the realization that the girl I'd loved, the girl I'd trusted, the girl I'd envisioned building a future with, was nothing more than a gold-digging cliché, a painful punch to the gut. Yep, her reply was as succinct as it was callous. I'd rather cry in a Lamborghini than laugh in a Honda Civic. Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. The ultimate millennial kiss-off. A digital shrug that dismissed my feelings, my pain, my very existence, with the same nonchalance she had displayed while tossing a used tissue in the trash. And as I stared at the screen, the venomous green of her words burning into my brain, a cold fury settled over me, a resolve that hardened my heart and sharpened my mind. She wanted to play the game, did she? The game of social status, of material possessions, of using people and discarding them like yesterday's trash? Fine, let the games begin. The walls of the dorm room were thinner than a politician's promises, a flimsy barrier against the viper's nest of gossip and manipulation that was brewing within. I stood outside, my hand hovering over the doorknob, a strange mix of apprehension and morbid curiosity churning in my gut. What fresh hell was Sue concocting now? Was she composing a breakup ballad for TikTok? Or perhaps crafting a voodoo doll in my likeness, complete with pins strategically placed in anatomically suggestive locations? He's so rich, May. Sue's voice, a symphony of avarice that would make a Wall Street banker blush, slithered through the thin walls, its venomous tone a stark contrast to the sweet-talking facade she'd used to charm me out of my car keys and my goddamn dignity. His dad owns like a whole chain of car washes, and that sports car, it's just his practice car, he said. Can you imagine? Practice car? Seriously? The car that was currently sporting a dent the size of a baby elephant's ass, courtesy of her selfie-obsessed vanity, was just a practice car? Oh, the irony was thicker than a Kardashian's foundation. Little did she know, her gold-digging ambitions were aimed at the wrong target. Chad, with his daddy's car wash fortune, was a pauper compared to yours truly. But hey, who was I to spoil her delusions of grandeur? So, what's the plan? May, her voice a raspy whisper that reeked of cheap vodka and questionable life choices, inquired, her role as Sue's accomplice as evident as the skid marks on my practice car. The plan? Sue giggled, the sound as fake as her eyelashes. The plan is to get pregnant, of course. A little oops, we got carried away moment, a strategically timed pregnancy test, and bam, Mrs. Chad Thundercock, with a platinum credit card and a baby bump that's bigger than my ego. My stomach churned with a nausea that was more potent than a triple-shot espresso. Pregnancy? Marriage? They were plotting to trap that poor bastard, to use a child as a bargaining chip in their twisted game of social climbing and financial exploitation. The depths of their depravity were as breathtaking as their stupidity. Did they really think Chad's daddy, the car wash kingpin, would welcome a gold-digging daughter-in-law and a bastard grandchild with open arms? Oh, the drama was about to get juicier than a Real Housewives reunion. But what if he doesn't want to marry you? May, bless her occasional moments of lucidity, questioned, her voice laced with a skepticism that was as refreshing as it was fleeting. He will, Sue scoffed, her confidence as inflated as her bra size. He's smitten, May. He thinks I'm like the hottest girl in school. He'd do anything for me. Anything, apparently, except pay for the damages to his daddy's practice car. They can't afford to. And what about Kenji? May pressed, the question a flicker of conscience in the cesspool of their scheming. Kenji, Sue laughed, the sound as cold and heartless as a Siberian winter. He's a simp, May, a loser. He'll get over it. Besides, he's probably already crying into his ramen noodles and writing a breakup ballad that no one will ever listen to. Ah, if only they knew. Kenji, the simp, the loser, was about to unleash a symphony of payback that would make their little scheme look like a child's tea party. They had underestimated me, those two heartless harpies. They had mistaken my kindness for weakness, my patience for stupidity, my love for a bottomless well of financial support they could exploit without consequence. The dorm room, a chaotic blend of discarded clothes, half-eaten takeout containers, and questionable hygiene, was a fitting backdrop for the showdown that was about to unfold. Sue, perched on her bed like a queen on a throne of dirty laundry, looked up with a sneer as I entered, my presence an unwelcome intrusion on her self-absorbed universe. Kenji, she drawled, her voice dripping with a disdain that could curdle milk. What are you doing here? Don't you have some ramen noodles to cry into or a sad love song to write? Actually, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, the anger a tightly coiled spring in my chest. I'm here for my stuff. Specifically, that phone I bought you for your birthday. The one that's currently glued to your hand like a lifeline to your adoring fans. May, the ever-present sidekick, the instigator of all things bitchy and manipulative, emerged from the bathroom, her hair a tangled mess, her eyes narrowed with a suspicion that was as sharp as her acrylic nails. Phone, she scoffed, her voice a raspy whisper that reeked of cheap vodka and bad decisions. Honey, you gave that to Sue. It's hers now, finders keepers, losers weepers. Finders keepers? I echoed, my voice rising with the indignation that was bubbling like a volcano in my gut. You mean like the way Sue found my heart, and decided to stomp all over it with her designer heels? Sue's carefully crafted mask of indifference slipped, a flicker of fear crossing her eyes as she realized that the simp, the loser, the guy she thought she could manipulate and discard, was no longer playing by her rules. "Don't be ridiculous, Kenji," she said, her voice losing its usual confidence, her hand instinctively clutching the phone like a lifeline. "It's just a phone. Chad can buy me a new one, a better one. An iPhone 15 Pro Max with, like, a diamond-encrusted case and a conscience," I interrupted, my voice laced with a sarcasm that was sharper than a diamond-encrusted anything. "Because that's something neither of you seem to possess." May, bless her viper tongue and her unwavering loyalty to the dark side, jumped to Sue's defense, her words a venomous spray of insults and accusations. "Oh, please, Kenji," she sneered. "Don't act like you're some kind of saint. You're just pissed because Sue dumped your sorry ass for a real man. A man with money, status, and a car that's actually his." "A car that's actually mine, you mean?" I corrected, my voice dangerously low, the anger now a roaring inferno in my chest. "The car that your precious Chad stole from my dad's car wash. The car that's now sporting a lovely dent thanks to your selfie-obsessed girlfriend." Sue's eyes widened, the blood draining from her face as the realization of her predicament hit her with the force of a runaway train. But May, ever the loyal enabler, quickly recovered, her voice a soothing balm to Sue's wounded ego. "Don't worry, babe," she cooed, her arms snaking around Sue's shoulders, her words a toxic whisper in her ear. "He's just trying to scare you. He's still in love with you, the pathetic loser. Just ignore him, and he'll crawl back begging for another chance." Sue, her confidence restored by May's poisonous encouragement, tossed her hair with a defiant flick of her wrist. "Yeah, Kenji," she said, her voice regaining its usual arrogance. "Just get over it. I'm with Chad now, and he's everything you're not." "Everything I'm not?" I echoed, my voice laced with a bitter amusement. "Rich, popular, entitled? Well, congratulations, Sue. You've traded in a genuine human being for a walking, talking cliché with a daddy complex and a credit card that's probably maxed out." And as I turned to leave, their laughter echoing behind me, a mocking testament to their shallowness and their ignorance, a new resolve solidified within me. The glow of the laptop screen illuminated my face, the digital battlefield a stark contrast to the sterile calm of my dorm room. May and Sue, those keyboard warriors with a penchant for cyberbullying and a vocabulary that would make a sailor blush, had unleashed their arsenal of online vitriol, their Instagram feed a testament to their pettiness and their desperation. "Kenji the Simp," they'd captioned my photo, the image a candid shot of me studying in the library, my glasses perched precariously on my nose, my expression a mix of concentration and the existential dread that came with trying to understand organic chemistry. This loser thought he could keep a girl like Sue with his nice guy act and his daddy's money. Newsflash, Kenjini boy. Hot girls like Sue belong with real men, men like Chad, who drive their own sports cars and don't need a loan to pay for their protein shakes. The comments section was a cesspool of emojis and insults, a digital echo chamber of their shallow little social circle, their words bouncing off the armor of my indifference like pebbles thrown at a tank. "What a loser. He's so ugly. I bet he cries himself to sleep every night. Someone get this guy a tissue and a therapist." I scrolled through the comments, a smirk playing on my lips, the amusement a welcome distraction from the simmering anger that fueled my resolve. They thought they could hurt me with their childish insults, their pathetic attempts to shame me, to discredit me, to erase my existence from their carefully curated online reality. Lisa, bless her righteous soul, and her impressive collection of vintage band t-shirts, was a goddamn warrior poet. A digital Joan of Arc armed with a smartphone and a vocabulary that could make a sailor blush. She stormed into the dorm room, her eyes blazing with a fury that could melt steel, her voice a righteous thunderclap that shattered the smug complacency of Sue and May's cyberbullying campaign. "What the hell is wrong with you two?" she demanded, her words a verbal slap in the face of their carefully curated online personas. "Posting Kenji's photo like that? Calling him names? Seriously? Are you still in middle school?" Sue, her perfectly manicured nails tapping away at her phone, barely looked up, her voice dripping with a disdain that could curdle milk. "Oh, please, Lisa," she scoffed. "Don't act like you're so much better than us. You're just jealous because you're not hot enough to get a guy like Chad." May, the ever-present sidekick, the instigator of all things bitchy and manipulative, chimed in with her usual brand of venomous support. "Yeah, Lisa," she sneered. "Why don't you go back to your books and your boring little life? Leave the real fun to the adults." "Adults?" Lisa retorted, her laughter a sharp counterpoint to their insults. "You call this adulting? Cyberbullying someone because you're too immature to handle a breakup? Grow up, ladies. You're both acting like a couple of spoiled brats who've never heard the word no." No? Sue echoed, her voice rising with an indignation that was as predictable as it was pathetic. "We don't take no for an answer, Lisa. We get what we want, and we wanted Chad, so we got him. End of story." "Not quite," Lisa countered, her eyes blazing with a righteous fire that made me want to stand up and applaud. "You might have gotten Chad, but you've also lost Kenji, and trust me, you're going to regret that. He's worth 1,000 Chads." "Oh, please," May scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "Kenji's a loser, a simp, a nobody. Chad's a goddamn rock star. He's got the looks, the money, the emotional intelligence of a goldfish." Lisa interrupted, her sarcasm sharper than a diamond-encrusted stiletto heel. "The moral compass of a used car salesman? The personality of a cardboard cutout?" Sue and May, their carefully constructed facade of confidence crumbling under the weight of Lisa's truth bombs, resorted to their usual arsenal of insults and threats. But Lisa, bless her fearless soul, stood her ground, her voice a beacon of defiance in the face of their toxic behavior. "You can try to intimidate me, you can try to silence me, but you can't change the truth," she declared, her words echoing through the dorm room, a challenge to their shallow values, their manipulative tactics, their entire warped worldview. And as I listened from the hallway, my heart swelling with a gratitude that was as unexpected as it was profound, I realized that I wasn't alone in this fight. Lisa, the quiet observer, the unexpected ally, had stepped onto the battlefield, her courage a testament to the enduring power of integrity, the unwavering strength of a woman who refused to let injustice permeate. The spreadsheet, a masterpiece of meticulous accounting and barely suppressed rage, glowed on my laptop screen like a beacon of financial reckoning. $18,000. That's right, ladies, 18 grand. The price of your designer handbags, your overpriced cocktails, your weekend getaways to Cancun that were apparently more important than textbooks and tuition fees. The cost of your materialistic desires, your shallow ambitions, your parasitic existence that had leached off my generosity and my misguided belief in the goodness of your hearts. I marched into their dorm room, the invoice clutched in my hand like a winning lottery ticket, the anticipation of their impending meltdown sweeter than a triple chocolate fudge cake with a side of fuck you sprinkles. Sue, bless her perfectly manicured nails and her vacant stare, was sprawled on her bed scrolling through Instagram, her world a carefully curated collection of filtered selfies and sponsored posts that reeked of desperation and unearned privilege. "Ladies," I announced, my voice a calm counterpoint to the storm brewing within me. "It's time to pay the piper." May, the ever-present instigator, the queen bee of bad advice and questionable morals, emerged from the bathroom, her hair a tangled mess, her eyes narrowed with a suspicion that was as sharp as her acrylic nails. "Pay the piper?" she scoffed, her voice a raspy whisper that could curdle milk. "What are you talking about, loser? You don't have the balls to—" "To what, May?" I interrupted, my voice hardening, the anger simmering beneath the surface like a volcano on the verge of eruption. "To demand what's rightfully mine. To expose your lies, your manipulations, your financial dependence on the guy you so casually dismissed as a simp?" I slapped the invoice on the table, the paper a declaration of war, a testament to my meticulous accounting and my unwavering determination to make them pay for their sins. Sue's eyes widened, her carefully constructed facade of indifference cracking like a cheap mirror in a funhouse. What the hell is this? She shrieked, her voice a shrill symphony of disbelief and dawning horror. It's an invoice, darling, I purred, my voice laced with a sardonic amusement that made her squirm. A detailed account of every penny I've spent on you, every gift I've given you, every goddamn dollar I've wasted on a woman who's as shallow as a puddle and as ungrateful as a hyena at a vegan potluck. May, bless her loyalty to the dark side and her complete lack of financial literacy, scoffed. $18,000? She cackled. You're kidding, right? That's like a month's allowance for Sue. Her daddy will just write you a check and… Her daddy? I interrupted, my laughter a bitter symphony of disbelief. Honey, you're barking up the wrong money tree. Sue's daddy is a retired accountant with a gambling problem and a penchant for questionable investment schemes. And as for Chad's daddy, well, let's just say that his car wash empire isn't exactly funding a lifestyle that involves private jets and diamond-encrusted toilet seats. The realization hit them like a ton of bricks, the truth of their financial dependence, their precarious position on the social ladder, a stark contrast to the image they had so carefully cultivated. Sue's face crumpled, the tears welling up in her eyes a testament to her shattered dreams, her misplaced confidence, her utter failure to grasp the reality of her situation. But how are we going to pay you? She whimpered, her voice cracking with a desperation that was as pathetic as it was satisfying. That, my dear Sue, I said, my voice a cold dismissal, is not my problem. You made your bed, now lie in it. Or better yet, sell it. Along with your designer wardrobe, your overpriced makeup collection, and maybe even a few of those inspirational quotes you've plastered all over your dorm room. And as I turned to leave, their frantic whispers echoing behind me, a symphony of panic and regret, a quiet sense of triumph settled over me. The game was on, and I, the simp, the loser, the one they thought they could use and discard, was holding all the cards. They had underestimated me, misjudged my resolve, and now they were paying the price. The debt, that tangible reminder of their exploitation, was a chain around their necks, a weight that would drag them down, a constant reminder of the consequences of their actions, their shallow values, their misguided belief that they could get away with anything. Panic mode for Sue and May was less a fight-or-flight response and more a shop till you drop and then figure out how to pay for it later kind of vibe. The invoice, that stark reminder of their financial dependence on the loser they'd so casually discarded, had thrown their carefully curated world into a tailspin worthy of a reality TV show meltdown. $18,000! Sue shrieked, her voice a symphony of disbelief and dawning horror, her manicured nails digging into the plush velvet of her dorm room couch. A piece of furniture that was probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. Where the hell are we going to get that kind of money? May, the ever-resourceful queen of bad ideas, shrugged with a nonchalance that would make a seasoned con artist proud. Don't worry, babe, she said, her voice a reassuring purr that masked the desperation in her eyes. We'll figure it out. We always do. Figure it out? Sue echoed, her voice cracking with a panic that was as unbecoming as her last Instagram selfie. How? We're broke, May. My credit cards are maxed out. My parents think I'm living on a scholarship, and Chad's daddy is probably still pissed about the dent in his practice car. There are ways, May said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that sent a shiver down Sue's spine. Ways to get the money. Quick ways, easy ways. But they come with a price. And so the descent into the underbelly of campus finance began. They hit up every friend, every frenemy, every acquaintance with a trust fund, and a conscience flexible enough to overlook their questionable morals. They pawned their designer handbags, their barely worn shoes, their collection of limited edition makeup palettes that were probably mass-produced in a sweatshop somewhere in Southeast Asia. But the money they scraped together was a mere drop in the ocean of their debt. A pathetic offering to the god of financial reckoning. It's not enough, May, Sue wailed, her tears a testament to her shattered dreams, her misplaced confidence, her utter failure to grasp the reality of her situation. We're still thousands short. What are we going to do? May, bless her unwavering loyalty to the dark side and her complete disregard for consequences, just smirked. "Don't worry, babe," she said, her voice a chilling reassurance. "I have one more option, but it's not for the faint of heart." The loan shark, a man whose smile was as sharp as his switchblade and whose reputation was as shady as his back alley office, eyed them with a predatory gleam that would make a hungry wolf blush. "So you ladies need a little financial assistance?" he purred, his voice a gravelly rasp that echoed through the dimly lit room. 18 grand, you say? That's a hefty sum. What kind of collateral are you offering?" Sue, her carefully manicured nails digging into the palms of her hands, stammered out a response, her voice a mix of fear and desperation. We have jewelry and electronics and a desperate desire to avoid the consequences of your actions." The loan shark finished, his smile widening, the glint in his eyes a testament to his enjoyment of their predicament. "Well, ladies, let's just say that I'm in the business of helping people like you. People who are willing to pay a premium for their indiscretions." The terms were brutal, the interest rates a highway robbery disguised as a financial lifeline. But Sue and May, blinded by their desperation, their fear of Kenji's wrath, their dwindling dreams of a carefree life with Chad and his daddy's money, signed the contract, their signatures a pact with the devil, a descent into a debt spiral that threatened to consume them whole. The wad of cash, a pathetic assortment of crumpled bills and hastily scribbled IOUs, landed on my desk with the grace of a drunken pigeon. Sue, her eyes red-rimmed and her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a life raft, avoided my gaze, her usual arrogance replaced by a shame that was as satisfying as it was fleeting. "Here's your money, Kenji," she mumbled, her voice barely a whisper, the defiance that had fueled her earlier pronouncements now a distant echo. May, bless her unwavering loyalty to the dark side and her complete lack of financial etiquette, tossed her share onto the pile with a dramatic flourish that would make a Vegas showgirl proud. "There," she huffed, her voice laced with a resentment that was as thick as the cheap perfume clinging to her clothes. "Now are you happy? Can we finally get rid of your pathetic presence?" "Happy?" I echoed, a smirk playing on my lips as I counted the bills, their crumpled state a testament to the desperation that had fueled their fundraising efforts. "Darling, this is just the amuse-bouche, the pre-game show, the opening act in a symphony of payback that's about to make your little lives a living hell." Sue's eyes widened, a flicker of fear momentarily eclipsing the shame. "Payback?" she stammered, her voice a shaky vibrato that would make a soprano sound like a baritone. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, don't worry your pretty little head about the details, sweetheart," I purred, my voice a condescending caress that made her squirm. "Just know that this little financial transaction is merely the first step in a long and winding road of consequences. A road paved with regret, humiliation, and the bitter realization that you messed with the wrong goddamn simp." May, bless her cluelessness and her unwavering belief in her own invincibility, scoffed. "Consequences?" she cackled. "You think you can scare us, loser? You think we're afraid of you?" "Afraid of me?" I laughed, the sound a chilling echo in the sterile confines of my dorm room. "No, darling. You should be afraid of yourselves, afraid of the choices you've made, the lies you've told, the people you've hurt. Because karma, my dear, is a bitch, and she's about to collect her due." I leaned forward, my gaze pinning them like butterflies on a collector's board, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that sent shivers down their spines. "Tell me, Sue," I purred, "how are your parents? Still living in that McMansion in the suburbs? Still driving their matching BMWs? Still blissfully unaware of their daughter's extracurricular activities?" Sue's face paled, the blood draining from her cheeks faster than a teenager's allowance at a video game store. May, bless her slow-witted loyalty, just blinked at me, her confusion a testament to her limited intellectual capacity. "What's that got to do with anything?" she challenged, her voice a weak attempt to regain control of a situation that was spiraling out of her grasp. "Oh, just a little curiosity," I said, my smile widening, the satisfaction of seeing their fear a delicious appetizer to the main course of revenge I was about to serve. "Just gathering some information, you know? For future reference." And as I ushered them out of my room, the door closing behind them, with a finality that mirrored the severing of our ties, a wave of anticipation washed over me. A thrill that was more potent than any drug, any victory, any fleeting moment of satisfaction. The phone call came like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile peace of Sue's Instagram-filtered world. $25,000, she shrieked, her voice a symphony of disbelief and dawning horror, her manicured nails digging into the plush velvet of her dorm room couch, a piece of furniture that was probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. "Are you kidding me? That's like a year's worth of lattes and manicures." Her father, bless his clueless heart, and his unwavering belief in his daughter's innocence, roared through the phone like a wounded bull. "This is no laughing matter, young lady. You damaged a very expensive car, and we're holding you responsible for the repairs. Do you have any idea how much this is going to cost us?" "But Daddy," Sue wailed, her voice cracking with a desperation that was as unbecoming as her last TikTok dance video. "It was an accident. I didn't mean to. It was Chad's fault. He was the one who—" "Chad," her father interrupted, his voice laced with a suspicion that was sharper than a diamond-encrusted stiletto heel. "What does Chad have to do with this?" Sue, bless her talent for digging herself deeper into a hole than a drunken gopher, stammered out a response, her carefully constructed web of lies unraveling faster than a cheap sweater in a washing machine. He was the one who let me borrow the car, and I was just taking a few selfies, and— "Selfies?" Her mother's voice, a shrill symphony of disapproval, joined the chorus of parental outrage. "Selfies on the hood of a car that costs more than our house? Sue, have you lost your mind?" "But Mom," Sue whined, her voice dripping with a self-pity that was as thick as her foundation. "It's not my fault. Chad said it was his dad's car, and—" "Chad's dad?" her father roared, his patience clearly wearing thinner than a politician's promises. "Do you really expect us to believe that Chad's father, the owner of a goddamn car wash, would let you drive around in a car that's worth more than his entire business?" The silence that followed was deafening, a testament to Sue's shattered illusions, her misplaced confidence, her utter failure to grasp the reality of her situation. She had gambled on Chad's wealth, his status, his ability to shield her from the consequences of her actions. And she had lost, spectacularly. May, bless her opportunistic heart and her complete disregard for anyone's well-being but her own, seized the moment, her voice a soothing balm to Sue's wounded ego. "Don't worry, babe," she cooed, her words a toxic whisper in Sue's ear. "We'll figure it out. We always do. Just, you know, maybe you should accidentally get pregnant. You know, a little oops, we got carried away moment. Chad's parents wouldn't want their grandchild to be born out of wedlock, would they? And once you're married, well, 25 grand is just a drop in the bucket for the Thundercock family fortune." Sue, desperate and vulnerable, clung to May's words like a life raft in a sea of despair. The dream of a carefree life with Chad, the Lamborghini, the designer wardrobe, the endless supply of Instagram likes. It was all fading, replaced by the harsh reality of debt, deceit, and the looming threat of parental wrath. "Chad, babe, I need you," Sue whimpered into the phone, her voice a pathetic blend of desperation and fake tears that would make a reality TV star cringe. "My parents, they're freaking out about the car. They want me to pay for the repairs. It's like $1 gazillion. You have to help me." Chad's voice, when he finally answered, was a gruff growl that was as unfamiliar as it was unsettling. "Help you? Help you? You've gotten me into enough trouble, you ungrateful bitch. My dad is going to kill me. He's already grounded me, taken away my allowance, and threatened to send me to military school, and it's all your fault." Sao's carefully constructed world of entitlement and delusion crumbled around her like a poorly built sandcastle in a tsunami. Chad, her knight in shining armor, the prince who was supposed to rescue her from the consequences of her actions, was now another monster, his anger a mirror to the fear that was clawing at her throat. "But Chad," she stammered, her voice cracking with a panic that was as unbecoming as her last Instagram selfie. I thought, your dad? The car, the car," he roared, his voice a thunderclap that echoed through the phone. "That goddamn car is the least of our problems. My dad's reputation, his business, his goddamn pride. It's all gone to hell because of you. Because of your stupid selfies, your reckless driving, your goddamn obsession with social media." He burst into her dorm room, his face contorted with a rage that made her cower, his eyes blazing with a fury that was as terrifying as it was unexpected. The slap came before she could even register his presence, the force of it sending her reeling, her head spinning, her vision blurring. "You stupid bitch!" he snarled, his voice a venomous hiss that cut through the air like a whip. "You've ruined my life. You've ruined everything." He grabbed her arm, his grip like a vice, his fingers digging into her flesh, the pain a stark contrast to the gentle caresses he had once bestowed upon her. He shoved her against the wall, her body hitting the plaster with a sickening thud. The air knocked out of her lungs. "Chad, stop!" she cried, her voice a strangled plea that was lost in the whirlwind of his rage. "You're hurting me." "Hurting you?" he sneered, his laughter a cruel mockery of her pain. "You think this is hurting? This is nothing compared to the pain you've caused me, the humiliation you've brought upon my family, the goddamn financial ruin you've unleashed." He struck her again, his fist connecting with her cheek, the force of the blow sending her sprawling to the floor, her head hitting the tile with a sickening crack. She lay there, dazed and disoriented, the blood trickling from her lip a bitter reminder of the dangerous path she had chosen, the consequences of her actions finally catching up with her like a pack of rabid wolves. "Chad, please," she whimpered, her voice a broken sob, the tears flowing freely now, not from manipulation, but from a genuine fear that was as raw as the pain throbbing in her jaw. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. Chad, consumed by his own rage, his own fear, his own shattered illusions, was no longer the charming prince, the knight in shining armor, the protector she had foolishly believed him to be. He was a monster, a bully, a coward who took his frustrations out on the woman he had used, manipulated, and ultimately discarded like yesterday's trash. And as she lay there, her body aching, her spirit broken, the dreams of a carefree life with Chad and his daddy's money fading into the darkness, a chilling realization dawned on her. She had made a mistake, a terrible mistake. She had traded love for status, loyalty for luxury, and in doing so, she had lost everything. Her boyfriend, her reputation, her dignity, her very sense of self. The image of Chad Thundercock, his face a mask of pathetic remorse, his voice cracking with a desperation that was as satisfying as it was unexpected, was a fitting farewell gift. "Kenji, dude, I'm so sorry," he'd blubbered, his carefully sculpted muscles trembling with a fear that was more potent than any protein shake. "I never meant to. It was her, man. She seduced me, manipulated me, promised me." "Promised you what, Chad?" I had interrupted, my voice a chilling echo in the aftermath of his violent outburst, the sight of Sue cowering on the floor, her face a canvas of pain and regret, a stark reminder of the consequences of her choices. A life of luxury? A trophy wife with daddy's money? A free pass to treat people like shit and expect to get away with it? He'd hung his head, his carefully gelled hair now a disheveled mess, his arrogance replaced by a shame that was almost pitiful. "I was an idiot, Kenji," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "I screwed up. I lost everything. My girlfriend, my reputation, my dad's trust. It's all gone." "And whose fault is that, Chad?" I'd asked, my voice devoid of sympathy. The satisfaction of justice served a cold comfort in the face of the damage that had been done. He'd looked up then, his eyes meeting mine with a flicker of understanding. a dawning realization of the role he had played in this twisted drama. Mine, he admitted, his voice a broken whisper. I was arrogant, entitled, blind. I thought I could have it all, but I ended up with nothing. And as I turned and walked away, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions, the wreckage of his own making, a sense of closure washed over me. A finality that marked the end of a chapter. A painful but necessary chapter in the story of my life. You played them like a goddamn Stradivarius, Kenji. Lisa, my unexpected ally, the voice of reason in the midst of the chaos, remarked as we shared a celebratory pizza in the relative safety of the cafeteria. It was a symphony of payback, Lisa, I corrected, a grin spreading across my face, the satisfaction of victory a delicious topping on the cheesy goodness. A masterpiece of manipulation, orchestrated with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a mob boss. But the conversation wasn't just about gloating, about reveling in the downfall of those who had wronged me. It was also about reflection, about understanding the journey I had been on, the lessons I had learned, the strength I had discovered within myself. I was so naive, I confessed, shaking my head at the memory of my own blindness, my willingness to overlook the red flags, the warning signs that had been flashing in my face like a neon billboard. We all make mistakes, Kenji, Lisa said, her voice gentle but firm. The important thing is to learn from them, to grow from them, to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And as I looked at her, her eyes sparkling with a genuine warmth that was a stark contrast to the manipulative gleam I had seen in Sue's gaze, I realized that the journey, though painful, had been worth it. I had faced my demons, conquered my fears, and emerged from the ashes of betrayal with a newfound sense of self-worth, a clarity of purpose, and an unwavering determination to never again allow myself to be used, abused, or taken for granted. The future was uncertain, the path ahead filled with challenges and unexpected twists, but I was ready for it, armed with the knowledge I had gained, the strength I had discovered, and the unwavering support of a true friend who had shown me the meaning of loyalty, integrity, and the enduring power of a genuine connection. The game was over, the score settled, the chapter closed. And as I walked out of the cafeteria, the campus lights twinkling like a constellation of possibilities, a sense of peace settled over me, a quiet confidence that I was finally, truly free.